Hello, welcome to Applied Philosophy. I am the creator of this channel, and this is my first video. And I thought I would discuss the male dominance hierarchy and the way people generally fit to this hierarchy. So, the current male dominance hierarchy theories are inundated with various classifications that are quite arbitrary, don't really make much sense. There are various definitions of these male archetypes per se. You have your alpha, your beta, your gamma, your omega, and a relatively new addition to the game, the sigma. And I think if you keep on making new additions to the game, eventually we're going to end up in a situation where we just have so many terms that it becomes fucking pointless. So yeah, I'm here to discuss really the actual male dominance hierarchy. So, in the current model that we have floating around in the Manosphere and on various forums, we have the alpha. Your alpha is well, pretty much self-explanatory. He is nice, big guy, strapping guy, big muscles, well-defined jawline, has desirable physical characteristics, good with the ladies, successful in life, has a good job, uh, well-balanced life, healthy life per se, and is generally regarded as the top of the food chain. After him, you have your betas. Your betas are, you know, they're betas. They're pretty self-explanatory. They have uh, they follow what the alpha tells them to do. They don't have the best. They don't have the best love life. They well, not as good as the alphas, but they do get wives eventually. Eventually, the when women generally get tired of their time with the alphas, they will settle for a beta, as beta is a more safer option when women are getting a little older and are more comfortable being married, at least in the modern 21st century. The beta has a general characteristic to consume products, is relatively materialistic, and he enjoys the pop culture of society. And he's not generally very resentful. He's a happy-go-lucky guy, doesn't really care about a lot of things outside of his immediate needs and consumption needs and entertainment being satisfied. He doesn't have much of a drive, much of an intellectual curiosity, much of an ambition, nor does he have much of a what do you call it? Much of a sense of self and really a sense of self-confidence that an alpha would. Then you have these other categories which are called gamma, omega, and sigma, and those are really made for men who don't really fit into any of these two categories. Now, there's a flaw to this. There's a flaw to this system of hierarchy. And I'm not going to get into the general flaw of the idea of a sigma male because it's quite funny to me, to be honest. But but the major flaw is that there are a lot of men that are just fucking losers out there. And don't get me wrong, this channel isn't going to be bashing on men. I'm the last thing from a third wave feminist or whatever. But we gotta call a spade a spade. There's a lot of men that are just fucking losers out there, and they don't really fit into this alpha, beta, gamma, sigma, omega model. They really don't. Where do they fit in? What do we do with them, right? So, additionally, there you find varying definitions of these things and of these archetypes, and you have qualities that are grouped into the alpha, and the beta by various other channels that are contradictory in nature or have nothing really to do with each other, and so on and so forth. So I'm proposing my new, well, not necessarily new, but a revamped dominance hierarchy for men. This is this is a general theory, and it applies both to men, how men view each other, and how women view men. And it works in different ways for men and women, of course. So really, there are three broad categories for men. That's a dominant male, a recessive male, and an outcast male. Now, a dominant male is relatively self-explanatory. He is the dominant one. He is the superior male. He in whatever the situation may, in the situation that is present, he is the male that people turn to take control of the situation and to provide leadership, to provide guidance, and to really steer the ship of the people that are following him in this situation. The recessive male is an inferior male in the situation. He follows the dominant male. He does what the dominant male says. He gives, he gives his fealty in a way to the dominant male. And then there comes the outcast male. Now the outcast male, now he's a real son of a bitch. He is a generally quite dirty, nothing really going for himself in his life. He has, yeah, he's he doesn't he doesn't do a lot of things. He's kind of a loner. He is your stereotypical neckbeard with an anime body pillow that weighs 400 fucking pounds. Has never run a mile since middle school, and can't has never been to the gym. Can't lift weights. Has shitload of excuses for why he can't go to the gym or do anything. He doesn't read a lot of books. He's not very intellectual, or yeah, that would be your outcast male. Now, amongst these three groups that I gave that I presented, these three major positions, you notice I use the word situation a lot, and that's because this hierarchy is situational, right? When you're in your position in a hierarchy can change depending on the situation. Now, there may be a man that is dominant in all or almost all situations. There may be a man that is recessive in almost all or all situations. And that is probably common in most cases. But there are certain cases where we have a dominant male who is a male that is incredibly dominant in one situation. That is what I would say is recessive in another situation. I'll give you an example. Take Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos in the boardroom, yeah, you better bet he's a fucking dominant male. He's, people are listening to him, people are taking his advice, they're doing what he says, and he's steering the ship, really. He has command in a boardroom. Now, Jeff Bezos in an alleyway or in the streets, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but he's not really the dominant male. So as you can see, that this is real, that the interplay between being dominant and recessive is a quite situational thing. It is not set in stone necessarily. However, there are cases where it can be. And as intellectual beings, as we are humans, we should craft theories and models of society that take into account nuance and varying situations throughout the human experience. Now, how do men get into these various categories? See, men judge other men really based on your competence. A man judges a man based on how good they are in a situation, right? If a general is if a general is recruiting men for an army, right? You have to pass certain tests and certain, you know, you have to pass certain tests and certain qualifications to join the army. You can't be unfit. You can't be a total idiot. You can't be, you can't be unpatriotic. And there are many other qualifications that you would have to pass to be in the army. Or if you were getting into a prestigious firm, and you would have to pass the various qualifications required to join said firm. Now, really, it's really based on your competence in the situation. And a lot of your other intangible skills go into demonstrating your competence in a situation. Your self confidence in yourself is one of them. If you're confident in your skills, you will exude a sort of uh, tone of talking and personality that will make others believe that you're confident in your skills, and you're confident in and they become confident in your capabilities. Yet, it's really it's still based on the idea of you being competent in the situation that you'll be in, or the perception of being competent in the situation that you will be in. Now, when it comes to, say, women, women perceive this dominance hierarchy of, well, the threefold dominance hierarchy of dominant male, recessive male, and outcast male quite differently. And this has incredible ramifications on uh, the sexual marketplace, the dating world, an individual man's love life. And yeah, it's probably best that I should go through that as well. So imagine actually a food pyramid. So in a food pyramid back in the day when a lot of us were in school, we had at the bottom, you had the stuff that was like the most important, right? Like, you're supposed to eat a lot of bread and stuff. And at the top, you had stuff that's like the least important, like, candy, and you're not supposed to eat too much of candy, right? Well, think of like that inverted, right? You have at the top, you have the large, base of the pyramid. You have the large section. That's the most important part of how a woman views a man and places a man into one of these categories of dominant male, recessive male, or outcast male. And really, it comes down the top level of that is face, height, and frame. So you're a man's height, a man's face, and a man's frame. Those are what I'd call the three kings, according to women. And a lot of a woman's attraction is based on a male's face, height, and frame. We can kind of see that through our own observations. There have been many studies using Tinder profiles and all sorts of things that you guys can find online that affirm this fact. Now, amongst those three, really, there's even a hierarchy amongst those three, where a man's height is the most important, a man's face is the second tier, then comes a man's frame. And if you think about it, when you're far away, a woman notices a man by his height. When she's close by, a woman will notice a man by his face. And a good, strong frame is always an indicator of masculinity. So after face, height, and frame, the next qualities that a woman will judge a man by to fit him into this hierarchy in her mind, in the way that she views this hierarchy, would be through the ideas of muscles, money, and fame. Do you have muscles? If you have muscles, yes or no? Do you have money? And I'm not talking about average man salary money, because women are more than capable of earning that nowadays in the modern economic and political situation that we're in the 21st century. So when a woman thinks about money as a factor in terms of your position in the hierarchy and in the sexual marketplace, they mean, are you fairly wealthy? And of course, fame. Do you have name recognition? Do people walk around and know who the hell you are? People see you when they wave to you. Do people, when you go to the club or any social gathering, wherever you go, Do you know people? Do people greet you? Do people, that is a that is another category that women will take a look at when they place you into a perceived hierarchy within their mind of dominant male, recessive male, and outcast male. And then the final thing a woman will look at is your personality. Now, out of those things, you can work on your personality. You can work on, developing your muscles. You can work on developing your career so you can get more money. And you can do something great and gain fame. You can also increase your frame by building more muscle and increasing the bone density and just looking bigger. But can't really fix your face, can't really fix your height. So the two most important things a woman looks at for a man who she perceives as dominant, recessive, or an outcast is really genetic. It is a genetic predisposition that she looks for, and really the genetic argument is underplayed within the manosphere and is really you know in order to allow for this idea of the pickup artist or game or whatever. But really, that's really a small, very small portion of what a woman is looking for in a man. When a woman sees a man deliver a clever pickup line to her, that falls under the personality section. That's kind of like the least important thing she has in her mind. She's looking at your height, your face, your frame, your muscles. Do you have money? Do you have fame? She's judging that by your clothes you wear, how people around you treat you. So it's a very different way of looking at men, as men, and how men see other men. A man sees another man based on his competence, and a woman sees another man based on these categories. And this has huge ramifications because women tend to want to mate with dominant men. They may settle for somebody who's slightly more recessive, who has proven himself in other categories, such as perhaps money or other things, or she feels that she's getting old and she's losing amongst her more younger peers in the game. But when it comes to who she would really like, generally speaking, a woman will go for what she perceives to be a dominant male, and if what she perceives to be a dominant male is largely genetic, it's quite scary to a lot of men, and I can sympathize with them. I can understand why they would feel that way. But this is the reality, and they have to learn to accept it. The reality is that alpha fucks beta bucks, and as the common saying is, and what a woman perceives to be an alpha may not be the same as what a man perceives to be an alpha, because or what a woman perceives to be dominant, to use my phrases, is not necessarily what a man may perceive to be dominant, because we're two different beings and we view the world differently. And that's fine, but we have to figure we have to acknowledge that a large portion of this dating game, a large portion of finding a partner, finding a woman that loves you, finding a woman that cares for you, finding a woman that wants to be with you is not you're not her settling, you're not her settling game. She's not settling for you. Like, she wanted to be with you, and she wouldn't want to be with anybody else. A lot of being that kind of a man is largely based on genetics. And if men don't recognize that sooner or later and they just go around playing stupid pickup artist games, trying to get a girl with witty pickup lines that don't really work, and everybody knows that. Women know that, men know that, women have heard this 1,000 times again. I mean, I've tried these things 1,000 times over and over again at the bars, clubs, wherever the fuck they try it. It's If they don't recognize that, it's going to be they'll just be deluding themselves. We'll just delude ourselves into a point of you just become so deluded, you lose sight of what's actually important here, and the reality of the situation. And as men, we really shouldn't be doing that. So it is genetic. So a lot of the dating game is genetic. And yeah, I mean, It's rough for a lot of people, and I can see why. However, not to get too black-pilled on you guys, there is still a reason to continue to develop yourself as a man, even if you don't feel that you have the superb genetics in the world to attract a woman. You should still develop yourself as a man, right? So a lot of people, they get into the manosphere and they start looking up they start looking at the terms and the qualities of an alpha and try to fit themselves into the manosphere of alpha, beta, gamma, omega, sigma, whatever, to see where they're at right now and where they want to be. And they go to the gym and they go to they may read a few books, they may try to improve their fashion sense, they may improve their hygiene and all these other things that are generally good. These are good things to do, but they do them generally out of the idea that this will make them more attractive to females. And like I said, I don't think that's necessarily true, since your attractiveness to females is largely genetically based. What what doing these things does, on the other hand, is improve your standing as a man amongst men. And I think that's what a lot of men who join the manosphere, especially when they're young, are failing at, and they need to understand that your dominance, your role within the hierarchy as a dominant male, a recessive male, or an outcast male is really dependent on your status amongst men in society. Because you're a man at the end of the day, right? You interact with other men. A lot of your position in society is determined by men, how men view you. And if you're not viewed as, and if you aren't viewed as a man amongst men, there's a lot of other ramifications that could appear in your life, more so than whether or not you get laid. So, like for example, you might not get the job that you want. You may not get, uh, you may develop horrible health complications because you don't spend enough time in the gym. You may not advance your career far enough. You may not, you may not learn what you wanted to learn. There's a lot of other experiences in life that you would miss out if you really fail at being a man amongst men. And that should really be the focus. So even though going to the gym won't is most likely not going to get you laid. Going to going to the library, picking up a bunch of books and reading a lot and really improving your intellectual capabilities may not get you laid. Changing your fashion sense and becoming more witty with your pickup lines may not get you laid. But what it does is, at the end of the day, is it improves your confidence, improves your physical health and strength, improves your intellectual capabilities, your ability to respond in a critical scenario, which are all requirements that men have to do, that society has not stripped us men, of our obligations to do. Because at the end of the day, when shit hits the fan, right, we are expected by society to take charge of the situation. When the Titanic's going on, we're expected to stay last. When there's flooding going on due to a hurricane, us men are expected to carry people out of the floods and save people. We're the drivers. We drive society in many ways. Anyways, thank you for coming to my channel and watching this video, and stay tuned for further videos on this channel. Thank you. Have a good day.